Okay, guys, I've got top of the hour. Craig, Darren, and Mike, welcome. I'm glad you guys were able to take time out of your busy day to join me for Virtual Thursday today. And today we're going to cover InspectER, kind of top to bottom, go through the app itself, and then we're fortunate enough, really fortunate enough, to have the product owner. So when I say product owner, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, product owner is essentially the project manager for this app for InspectER, and his name is Stewart Smith, and he has just a wealth of experience both in the fire service. He spent close to 20 years, if I remember right, Stu, 20 years in the fire service, and has been a product owner and product manager for another RMS before we basically stole him away, and he's done great work thus far, extremely responsive to not only customers, but to the trainers at kind of as a conduit for customer requests. So, Stu, you want to just share a few words and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure, guys. So I'm retired from the Garland Fire Department in Texas a little over 20 years before I retired, and been in the software side of the fire product markets for 14 years. So glad I can be here today.
Yeah, Stu, thanks a lot for joining in, and I know you'll probably be able to answer some questions that you know about the app that I don't know, as far as where it's going and some of the most recent changes to it in the latest release. So with that, guys, I just want to mention to the three of you on with us today, we've got 2 training opportunities coming up, and I always do this at the beginning of our training sessions. If you can make it, it's coming up at the end of September. We've got our first ever National Training Academy being held in Bellingham at our headquarters. So you're going to get to meet, those of you that have met us, our training team out in the field, or have talked to support, you can actually meet them face to face and talk to our developers. Stewart's going to be there, and other leaders of the organization will be there. We're also going to have quite the speaker roster here that I want to show you. And where is that darn thing? Oh, I know we have it. Hang on, guys. We got the detailed agenda, but we have a speaker list that I want to show you that, well, you know what we're going to do. We're going to go to this site because I know it has it. I just need to show it to you because we're really honored to have this slate of speakers coming to this event, and you'll recognize some of the names right out of the gate here. And if you're able to register today, you get early bird pricing. But here are the keynote speakers. We've got Chief Brunacini, retired from the Phoenix Fire Department. I'm very, very grateful to have him. David Richardson, who is from Midwest City. He formerly worked for ISO, and his department just went through an ISO audit using emergency reporting. So he's going to have some incredible knowledge to share with us. Chief John Erickson, also known as America's Fire Chief. He is the retired United States Army Director of Fire and Emergency Services, better known as their Fire Chief. He'll be there talking about NFPA 1500 and safety analytics. Chief Kuntz, who is the Fire Chief out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, is going to be there, and he's going to talk about managing and leading technological change through an organization and how he successfully implemented emergency reporting at some of the bases he has been at throughout the years. And then we've got Chief John Sinclair out of Kittitas Valley Fire and Rescue. He's also part of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. He was the chair, and he's going to share some of his background and how he's effectively used emergency reporting as well. So we're really excited about this first event, and I just wanted to bring that up to you guys. In the event, we know it's last minute here. We're pushing, less than 3 weeks away, but if you can escape and come to Bellingham, it's beautiful. And we'd love to see you there. If you can't make that one, if Irma doesn't destroy Miami, and our prayers are with everybody out in Florida right now, we will be having our fourth Regional Training Academy out in Miami from October 24th through the 26th. And if things go well with Irma, like they did relatively speaking with Harvey, a lot of things are back to normal, at least commercially in Houston. This should be a go, and even if it isn't, we'll reschedule, and everybody will still get full credit for the event. So again, if you're available for either of those two, we'd love to see you. And then we've got a slate of at least 6 regional training academies coming up next year. All right, let's dive into any questions, you guys, on those training events?
Nope, we're good.
All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's topic. So I need to go here, and we're going to go straight into InspectER right out of the gate. I'm going to have the account that it's linked to open here in the background. We're going to visit that here momentarily, but I want to walk you through basically what happens when you first log into InspectER. You're going to get this message. So I need you to know that the initial synchronization, so the first time you sync is the longest sync. So if you're a department that has hundreds, perhaps thousands of occupancies, be patient. It's working. You'll see a little indicator, progress meter, so to speak, that spins that lets you know that it's synchronizing. And I just synchronized this for the first time after I reinstalled the app today. And I have 1,900 occupancies, and it was one of the fastest syncs I've had using this. And probably within 2 to 3 minutes, it was fully synchronized. Okay, it's important to know that you can retrieve now. In InspectER, there's 3 levels. There's level 1 that gives your agency read-only privileges for everybody in the department, which means they can use this app for pre-plans and viewing everything except for inspections regarding the occupancy. There's level 2 that allows them to edit the occupancy data. There's level 3, which is a per user license for completing and conducting and completing inspections. And so question we often get when people say, well, if I buy 3 licenses, can I assign them to anybody in the department? And that is exactly correct. So here under admin, in your account, once you have any InspectER licenses, you manage them here on the lower right corner of the administration page. And this account, we have 50 licenses assigned to this account. So you get to assign from the bottom and basically add to the list above who gets access to the ability to inspect using the app. Okay, everybody in the account, if you have level 1 or level 2, can either read or edit the information. Okay, but only the people you assign here can actually go in and conduct inspections, and that's a per license fee. Question? No? Okay, I thought I heard someone ask a question or start to ask a question. And this can be, so say we've got 50, but typically the typical licenses range from anywhere from 5 to 10 for most prevention organizations. You can add and remove people, their privileges, to be able to do that from the app. This only controls what access they have in the app. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay, back to the app. Okay, so there is, I should say, 1 occupancy assigned to me. It's automatically added to your device so you can retrieve the inspection data. So what you need to know here is that any occupancy assigned to me, when I log in, so for example, if I am the assigned inspector here, which I have 1 occupancy, the Archer Ale House, that occupancy data, the history, will also download. All of the other occupancies, that inspection history will not download. And part of that is so your initial synchronization and future synchronizations are faster. We could bring it all over, but it would take a whole lot longer. Okay? And so once we're good there, again, you can select don't show this again if you don't want it to appear, but I choose to keep it on for teaching purposes. Click close, and you're presented the main grid of InspectER. One key thing that you're going to notice right away, and I'm going to go there first because it's so obvious, is the checkboxes here. These checkboxes do not behave like they behave in the occupancy module. In the occupancy module, what do the checkboxes mean? And since we got open mics here, this is great because we can actually discuss this. So when you have the checkboxes here, what am I doing when I check these boxes? What is it permitting me to do? I'm going to put Darren on the spot because I know he knows this. So for those of you that don't know Darren, he is, and I know he has different roles out at Rock Island Arsenal. one of our Army customers, and he's a power user of the system. So he and I are friends, and so that's why I'm going to give him a hard time a little bit today. And oh, I want to welcome Natalie Durham out of Nicholasville also. She just joined us. So Natalie, I'm going to unmute you, and you can ask questions if you want. Just go ahead and mute yourself now, but if you need to ask a question, you can self-unmute since we've got a smaller group today, okay? And if you don't have a mic, that's okay too. You can just type in questions. But go ahead and mute yourself, and that way you can control whether you say a question or not. Okay, so this, in the occupancy grid, checking these boxes allow me to perform bulk operations. So I can print or assign an inspector by checking one or more occupancies. In the app, okay, checking these boxes means that I want to pull down the inspection information about that occupancy, whether and if I'm an inspector, if I'm the assigned inspector, I'm automatically, that box is checked. So for example, I'm going to filter. This is a big demo account, so there's lots of people. I'm going to filter just me. And you're going to see that that box, because I am the inspector assigned to this building, is automatically checked for me. However, I'm going to clear my filter. Any other occupancy that I have previously checked for this app will automatically pull down that inspection data. So that's the difference, and I just want everybody to be aware of it because it's functionally significantly different than the checkboxes on the far left within the web app itself. Stewart, anything you want to add regarding that?
No.
Okay, so that's one big takeaway here on the grid for the InspectER. And then moving across the top, we have fewer columns because we have limited space on the tablet. And when I say tablet, it's important to keep in mind that this was optimized for tablet, and in the iOS store for Apple, you can only download it if you're on an iPad. If you try to download this while you're on an iPhone, it won't even appear because it knows you're on an iPhone, the App Store does, and it's not designed for the phone form factor. We made that decision early on because it would just, we wouldn't have the app right now in front of us because we'd be still developing for that form factor as well. Now I do know that on Android, it will appear in the store regardless of the device that you're on. So keep in mind that you could try downloading it for an Android device, but it's probably not going to work as expected. It's designed for a tablet, and the same goes for the Windows Store. If you're on a Windows Surface, you can download the app and work on it from a Windows Surface tablet. So just keep that in mind. The intent here was to make it tablet optimized. There's just too much information to manage in most instances to put it effectively on a phone form factor. Okay, so the columns, we have the ability to sort the column ascending or descending, and that's, you can tell how it's sorted by the yellow indicator, and if it's pointed up, it's sorted ascending, so from A to Z, or if it's pointed down, and if all you do is tap on it, it's sorted from Z to A. Tap again, and it puts it back to its original sort. So the name and address, this particular filter, you'll see in kind of fade, dark, slightly darker gray than the background, that it's a starts with filter. So it's looking for the characters in the name and in the ID and in the address. Okay, even though it doesn't say ID there, it's also looking at the ID. So if I want to find building number, for example, 809, which is the top one, it's going to give me that result, 809, even though it's not in the name of the building, nor is it in the address, okay? So let's say I want to look for the Archer Ale House. I just type in, and as I type, it auto-filters the grid for me. That is a difference from the web app. And I'm going to point out some differences because I know we're all used to how the web app behaves. And so some of the things that have been designed here in InspectER, I see in the future they'll migrate its way over into the web app. Okay, we tried to make this as user-friendly as possible here. And to clear out the search results, all I do is tap the X right there, and it takes me back to my previous grid unfiltered. Just remember name, address, ID, and it's a starts with. So if I try to type in barber, okay, it's only going to give me it's not going to give me the barber shop that was previously shown there. It's going to give me an occupancy, street, or ID where it starts with those characters. Okay. Next up on the filters is your next inspection date, and you can select these filters here at the bottom. All right, so if I'm due whatever I need to inspect, say within the next 30 days, I can select that, and the grid will auto filter and only give me the occupancies that have a scheduled inspection date in the next 30 days, for example. Anything that's overdue is nice because it filters the grid by overdue inspections, and I know we have those. And that's also indicated by the red exclamation mark and the red date. That's your cue that it's an overdue inspection. The inspectors, this is also different than the web app. In the web app, you can only filter by one inspector. This, you can filter by two. So if I'm filling in for Dave, all right, let's say I'm filling in for Dave, whoops. I am filling in for Dave and for Tim because they're on vacation. I can select those two, and any occupancies assigned to those two people will filter on the grid. So you have the ability to filter by more than one inspector. Likewise for the zone, okay? Zone, same thing. Instead of one zone, I can say, well, I've got to go look at all the twos today. So 2A, 2B, and 2C. I select it and my grid filters accordingly. So you basically have a multi-picker or a multi-pick filter here that you don't have in the web app. And that is the lay of the land for the grid, guys. Any questions on the grid and how to manage filtering the grid as needed? Okay, oh, we got one. Hang on one second. Darren's asking, are those functions going to come to the web app in the future? So here's what we're doing. There's no immediate plans, but as the different modules get updated, what we're going to look to is, one, do our customers like you guys like what's different in the web app or in the InspectER, for example, because it directly correlates to the occupancy module. And if you do, would you like to see some of those in the web app itself? So there'll be some studies, there'll be some user groups where we go in and test some of this stuff and get some feedback directly from you guys as we start developing, and you'll get emails on this as we go through and do it. So that's a long-winded answer to probably. It kind of depends on if people like what they're seeing in InspectER. If they're liking it, then yeah, I definitely see some of this migrating over to the web app. Okay, last thing I want to show you here, actually there's a couple things. One, now I'm not going to do it. I could go into airplane mode right now, and this would give me a red indicator. If I go into airplane mode, I'm going to lose my connectivity. That's allowing you to see my tablet that's in front of me. So I'm actually working on a tablet. I'm just projecting it into this so you can all see it. So if I do that, you'll lose it. So I'm not going to do it, but you'll have to trust me that if I go into airplane mode, I can just keep working. If I'm in the middle of an inspection and lose connectivity, just keep working. As soon as you regain connectivity, you can synchronize it, and all of that data will push over into your account, your web app. Okay. The gear icon allows you to log out. It lets you set your sync settings for intervals. So how often you want it to auto sync is what happens here. Okay, so I'm going to set mine to 1 hour. And click save, or tap save, I should say. And then this just gives you the version number. Check this anytime you're running into issues with the app. Okay, Check the App Store for the latest version. Make sure you have it. And this you can cross-check here. So we're at 1.0.6 right now. That's the latest version for iOS. And I am in iOS, obviously. You can see my iPad listed up there. But again, there probably will be different version numbers for Windows as well as for Android. But this is where you can check your version number. And always go here, especially if you're running into any issues. And there have been times earlier on in the release cycle here where we've recommended to customers if things are getting hung up, syncs are locking up, go ahead and uninstall the app, reinstall it, and then resynchronize. And I've found, especially with this latest release, that I've had no problems. And things are getting even faster as far as synchronizing goes. So again, just like any app that you get updates for, it's just going to keep getting better and better. And the way it gets better and better, guys, is you let us know what you run into. So if you're using this app at any time, we need to hear about it. Go to support, let them know, and then I can tell you just from working with Stewart and his team that they're all over this. And that's why we have these releases, so we can make this work as effectively for you as possible. And those of you that may have had the previous app, while it worked on old versions of like iOS, it was not compatible with later versions, and we did not stay with it and provide the support and ongoing updates that it needed. That's not going to be the case here with InspectER. Okay, pressing on. I am going to go straight into an occupancy. And so I'm going to filter the grid to give me the occupancy I'm looking for. And in this case, I want to go into Archer Ale House 2. I'm going to tap it, and the formatting is different than the web app. So let me do a little compare and contrast as we go here. All of the data elements, well, let me rephrase that. Most of the data elements that you see here are going to also be here in InspectER. They're just organized a little differently, and we'd like to think they're organized a little more intuitively based on what inspectors need and what officers need, firefighters need out in the field if they're responding to an incident to one of these structures. So the UI is slightly different depending on the platform you're using, but in iOS you've got 4 pages here down at the bottom, 4 sections. Okay. Well, actually, we'll call them pages. They're also called panels, but we'll call them pages. And if you have a level 3 license assigned to you, you'll have this 4th one, inspections. If you have only the level 2 capabilities, which is applicable to everybody in the organization that would download and use this app, you will have just these 3 tabs or these pages here. The first one automatically loads the basic info, and this is where you have the basic information about the structure. Name and location, contact information, and then general information. Just the basics of the building. So what I'm going to do is I want to show you how this changes things in the web app when we're online simultaneously. So let's say we go out to this building and we notice that, wait a minute, it's not 1220, it's actually 1222. So I'm on the InspectER, and I have the ability to edit. In the upper right corner, I tap the edit icon, a little pencil there, stylus, and I go in and I go ahead and change 1220 to 1222. Okay. Oh, and by the way, it's not on 10th Street, it's on 11th Street. They really goofed. Okay. Everything else is correct. Then I'm going to tap Save. And at this point, since I'm connected to the internet, when I refresh my web app, it should reflect the updated information. 1222, 11th Street. So you don't have to manually synchronize when you're editing information in the app. As soon as you tap Save, it automatically synchronizes if you're connected. If you're not, it stores it on the local device. Then when you regain connectivity, you can then resynchronize. And that's how you edit information about an occupancy. Questions on that? Okay, the next tab is your building information. So those of you that are operations still, this is your page. Property use, construction and fire load. It's your, well, we called it the National Fire Academy. I don't know if they still call it this, but back in the day when it was, when I took command and control of target hazards, this would be what's called your quick access pre-plan. Basic information organized in a useful manner to let you know where things are in the system or in the, on the building and systems within the building. So one thing I want you to know, and we did this to modernize the app. So here it's called FACP or FAAP, so Fire Alarm Control Panel or Fire Alarm Annunciator Panel, and FDC. When you go here to pre-plans, it's spelled out. Okay, Fire Alarm Panel, all right? So there's a couple fields that we wanted to update, and then here under Fire Protection Systems, it's called FD Connections. So it may throw you initially, but don't let it. It's just an updated name to reflect modern standards as best as possible. And so FD Connections is your FDC here, CD corner. I doubt many of you will ever have a problem with that, but I know some people may go, well, I got a matching field. How do I know where it's going? And so those are just a couple of the areas that it's named slightly different. All right, and so we hope it doesn't present a problem, but we think it makes better sense the naming convention here than it did previously. Accessibility and ventilation corresponds to building access and pre-plans. So again, here we've kind of bundled ventilation issues, the building access field here. So ventilation and exposure info. We bundled those key things into its own section, section right here. Hazmat, next page over, will allow me to, and again, if you look to the left here, I have chlorine and trimethylamine anhydrous. Those two correspond here. One thing I know you're probably going to notice right out of the gate is that in the web app, I can go directly to Cameo by clicking this link. The app, not yet, but I'm pretty sure it's on the plans to allow that same functionality that you could tap an icon, it would open your web browser in your, whatever your web browser is, in your tablet device and automatically go to Cameo like it does in the web app. So while there are plenty of areas the app is kind of leading the way and a little more advanced than the web app, InspectER is a little more advanced than the web app, there's some areas that we have to build into it that if we waited before everything was ready and it did exactly everything the web app did, we'd probably still be waiting for the app. And so that's why the software process that we use, the agile software development, every couple of weeks we're always making updates and tweaks to the app, and then we do that we do that to our system, of course, and we're also doing it to our standalone apps as well. And so that's why you'll see those updates occur. But it does give you all of that information, and it does give you the ability to edit it as well. So it's still worth putting in here, not only for reference when you're at the scene, but certainly if you have access to the web app, you can then have all of this information that was collected while you were in the field available to link to Cameo once you access the web app. And again, you have the filters here, chemical name, location, container, and other info, and both chemical and location can be filtered. Chemical name can be filtered, and then the location and chemical name can be sorted ascending or descending. Any questions so far? I can add a chemical by clicking the plus in the upper right corner and throw it in a brand new chemical, so we could do that. Let's say we have acetylene. Let's see, it's acetobromide. Location. Okay, we'll make it real quick here. 2 containers, container type. I have no idea how that particular one is stored, so we'll say drum. Click save, and it's added. And again, I'm online, and so that chemical will be added to this list now. let's go on to inspections. Okay, so I'm out in the field and I'm getting ready to go do an inspection. All right, so if I've started one, it will show in progress. But I want to start a brand new one. So I click over here on the right, I tap the plus icon, and this time we're going to do a 30-foot clearance inspection. Just like in the system, I can use any form I want. We'll do basic, and then I tap start inspection. And one of the features that wasn't with the original release but is now with the latest release is the ability to do bulk operations here. So it's pretty cool. So you can tap for the exits. I can expand it even if you wanted to see it. I can tap that checkbox there. It will automatically check all of the observation questions within that category. And if I wanted to, I can select all down at the lower left right here. I can answer all of my questions, pass, tap done, and now all of these results are pass. But of course, that's to indicate that we at least looked at everything. And now as we go through the inspection, all right, so I'm going to step away for just a sec. Actually, I'll just take a picture right here. So as I'm going through the inspection and I notice that the exit is, let's see, I want to read this question. So exit and exit access door shall be marked by an approved exit sign. Okay, so no exit sign on this, on northwest. Exit. I change my result to violation, and then I tap the camera icon. So there's my house. And I don't have an exit, so I stepped away for a second, and I don't have an exit sign at my door. So I can use that photo, and of course it would be a better quality photo, but it's that fast. Take the picture, use photo, and it loads, and the cool thing is, guys, it only loads to the app. It's not going to stack up a bunch of pictures in your photos, your photo app. Or in this case, it's called Photos in iOS. I'm not sure what it's called in Android, but if I go to my Photos app right now, this photo is not going to be there. It completely bypasses that and just loads it directly to the app. And for each violation or documentation that you want to capture, you can take 3 pictures. And then the process repeats for each question that you would have to find a violation for. All right, so now let's say, and we can, again, there's the other sections here that you would go through, and once you do it one time, it's the same process moving forward. So here, provide lighting for exits, aisles, and corridors. Oops, I don't need to check it. I just need to go, whoops, cancel. Okay, provide lighting. Again, another violation. And let's, yeah, violation. And of course, then we can take another picture. I'll stay right here. Use the photo, and we're good to go. And I can tell Stewart, this always performed well, but it's really performing snappy right now. So it's good to see that. They're the tweaks they make each release is just making this better and better. So then I'm done. My inspection's done. I go to result. Okay, here's my results page, just like in the web app. I finished the inspection now. That's actually a new neat feature that's a little different than the web app because, you know, on the web app, you got to go in and it default fills this with the start time for the inspection. So everybody knows to tap now for it, but this way there's no autofill. You actually have to tap now or put in an actual time. Inspection results, correction issued notice, or correction notice issued. Reinspection, yes. And the reinspection date is going to be 1 month from now. That inspection type is going to be a reinspection, for example. I can sign it. I can get a business owner to sign it. And if I start typing and there's a business, there's a contact associated with this occupancy, if I start typing some of their characters, it will give me the ability to select and then fill quickly. Okay. I'm going to actually send this to myself so you guys can see what the customer gets as it's done from the app. They can sign it as well. And now we're going to complete the inspection. It asks, are you sure you want to complete it? Yes, I do. And then this should just take a few seconds. I have had it hang up in the past here, so I'm hoping everything's good. And if it takes a little bit of time, be patient with it, because what it's doing is it's uploading all of the pictures you may have taken. So we'll give this a couple minutes. I'll be honest, this is one page where it's hung for me, and what it does is it's doing all the synchronization, but for some reason it's not sending the signal back to InspectER to say, okay, we're done synchronizing, release this page. So we'll give it a couple minutes and we'll see how it's populating here in inspections. So there's my 30-foot clearance. It's already done a lot of the synchronization. And so I'm looking at the app right now, the web app, it's still synchronizing. And so if we selected observations here, and I wanted to do violations, what I'm going to expect is this. It's not going to have the pictures yet. And that's what happened to me before. See, there's my violation. So it's only pulled down the one violation, not the other one. And there's no pictures yet. So I'm going to continue to be patient for a couple minutes here, and as it's processing. But know that the data's coming over. And then just like before, you can select observations. And so what my goal will be is to show you how you can do the exact same thing from InspectER and send those results either via email to the customer, or even print it directly from the app itself if you have an AirPrint printer or a printer connected to the network that you can print it directly from the app. So, Stu, have you run into that where it just hangs there? Is there any light you can shed on that?
Where the app hangs when you're trying to print?
No, right here. So right now it's synchronized a lot of the data for the app I just did. So if I go to violations, and so this inspection I did on the app. So see my two violations, they're both synchronized down, but my photos haven't synchronized, and on the app itself, it's still waiting. So I mean, there were times I gave it quite a bit of time and it still never gave it back to me to where I can proceed working in the app.
I'll have to check on that. I mean, I haven't heard a lot about that happening. Okay. But it might just be your connection just got slow and it's trying to synchronize those pictures because of the resolution.
Yeah, and that's possible. And they're hopefully they're not too big of pictures, but that very well could be the case, guys. So what I'm going to do to expedite this is I'm going to restart the app itself so I can show you how you're able to send directly from the app, just like you used to do, or still do actually, from the web app. So give me just a second to do that. And it's very possible it's just my lack of patience that is causing this, but I don't want to keep you guys hanging for 5 minutes while it loads those photos. But I do know that in the past, the data comes over just fine, just like it did here, but then it just doesn't give it back. So bear with me here, and we'll get this back in play. Let me see how much is actually synchronized here. Yep, all the data came over, so that's good. And so when you synchronize, guys, here's what it looks like. And this sync shouldn't take but a few more seconds, and because I've already synchronized the initial sync for this account. So keeping in mind too that it is synchronizing any inspections, okay, inspection history, or occupancies that I'm either assigned to or I checked on that grid on the when I had logged in previously. So we'll hang tight here. It won't take but a couple minutes. And while it's doing that, does anyone have any questions, any comments that you want to share? And Oliver, I don't know if you have a microphone or mic. I'm going to unmute you guys, and then go ahead and self-mute if you don't want to say anything or don't have a microphone. But since we have a smaller group today, we can actually carry on a conversation. So I also like to welcome Michael Bozzoni. He joins us. He's one of our newest trainers. I had the pleasure of working with him out in Buckeye, Arizona a couple weeks ago, and he's online with us. Mike, anything you want to add on InspectER from your department's perspective, or Darren?
I'll just, Mike. No, not really at the time.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Okay.
And guys, I'm probably hogging the bandwidth with GoToMeeting right now, and so that's slowing down my synchronization. So it's working. As long as this is spinning, it's synchronizing. So I had closed the app, and I'm reopening it right now. So
Yeah, I think that your bandwidth is probably tied up with GoToMeeting, which I know we use all the time, and it takes up a lot of bandwidth, because I just checked with QA on expansion, and they said, yeah, I mean, the photos do take a few minutes, because it just depends on how much your resolution was on those photos. We do take them down a notch from whatever you were doing, like, not you, but if somebody, we don't allow ultra high resolution photos because it just take up too much space.
yeah, it'll take way too long to download and or upload to the system. So if I had hung on and just stayed patient, it probably would have just completed its synchronizations too.
Yeah, just GoToMeeting's probably jamming you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because those are two different APIs, one that syncs data and one that syncs photos. Those are two different APIs.
And what Stewart means by an API, guys, it's basically the app talking to our main system, and it's got to find those particular fields, or in this case, images, and it's taking it from the app, InspectER, and saying, okay, I need to send it into the web app, and doing that, it has to go through an API, and the API endpoint is where it's parking that data, so it appears here in the web app itself. So APIs are essentially computers talking to another computer, or another system talking to another system. So when you can log in, and a great example of that is, say you go to another app, you're on your Facebook user, and you go to another app, and like Target or Amazon, and I don't think Amazon can do it, but other apps that say log in using your Facebook credentials. That's an example of an API. Oh, bandwidth, you're logging up. And I have a great connection here at the house too. Okay, so while it's doing that, and it will finish, I assure you. Anything, Stewart? Anything you want to share with the group, especially about the some of the under the hood stuff that occurred with the last update?
We just made sure we think we've just addressed every defect or bug that's been identified by customers. So that's been addressed. I think there's still one thing we're trying to improve upon. We are scheduling for a release for a new release for next week, is mainly because of iOS 11 coming out. So the app will be iOS 11 compatible, but we will have releases for all three platforms next week, just because we did address one bug that we did identify that you probably wouldn't know about, but we knew about it. So that's been addressed. And with the last release, we created an error log. So when you actually, if something does happen and it errors out, then you have the opportunity to send us the error log. Just follow the directions on the screen, and it'll send us an error log, and we'll know it came from whoever and their device and everything, and we can see what was going on, whether it was something with the app or something with the device. So that's there. It's hard to demonstrate that because you have to actually have an error to get to the error log, and we can't really force an error because we've fixed all the bugs.
Well, if you're a Mac user, I know sometimes if something crashes on an app, it says, do you want to report this to, it's a report or ignore, and you can report it to Apple or the app developer. And that's kind of how this is going to work. There'll be a prompt. I haven't seen it come up yet, but there's a prompt that will allow you to send that to our team. And then does it create a ticket automatically, or do we reach back out to the customer based on the info being sent to?
No, we actually create a ticket because support does get copied on it. So they create a ticket and then it's escalated to our team that works specifically on the app, and they'll reach out to the customer and determine if it's an app issue or a device issue or whatever. Again, we haven't had too much. We've only had that happen twice since we've released that feature a few weeks ago. That's how few bugs we have with the system. Most of the problems just come from if your device was set up by a city IT system. They usually they're doing flashes like of iPads, especially with secret security settings, and that's the only time we've run into issues with the iPad is with these flash iPads that big city ITs are setting up, and nobody knows what these security settings are. You can't access them through the regular settings menu. They're back-end stuff for IT departments. So that's the only issues we've ever found is just secret security settings that nobody knows about. But any device out of a box, personal user, we've not had any problems with.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So we got a few minutes, so I'm gonna keep letting it sink and find out why it's, see if it's just the bandwidth or what's going on. But as long as it doesn't lock up or give an error message, I know it's still going through the synchronization process. So while we're here, does anyone have any questions about the occupancy module? Since we're talking about InspectER and we're talking about its integration with the occupancy module, does anyone have any questions? Let me just pull this up real quick. Darren, I answered your question. It's the one.
And I can also show the app from my computer if I need to.
Yeah.
Mine's instantly. So if anybody's got any questions, I can share my computer.
I'm going to pass it to you, Stu.
Okay.
If you want, can you log into 221?
I am. Yeah, I'm in 221.
Perfect.
Tell me when you can see my screen.
This is actually great because now you can see it in the Windows. This is the Windows version, right?
Correct.
Okay, so go ahead and do a search for the Archer Alehouse 2.
And I probably don't have that inspection, so I'm going to sync that real quick because that's assigned to Tom.
Since you're not assigned to it.
Now it's synced. So it shows that was last synced just right now. And now when I go to it, I'll have all the historical inspection information.
So click on the 30-foot clearance. And so what I was going to do next is, go ahead and click that. And then go to result. Okay, so all of this is filled in from when I did it. Now Stu's going to click on complete inspection. Nope, it didn't save that. Huh.
Where?
Oh, I had put in a reinspection date and inspection type.
Okay, maybe just, so you want to set up a reinspection?
Uh-huh.
And so you want to set it, say, for Monday. And as noted, like Tom did some of this work on his device, which synchronized with the core production database. And then you can see when I synchronized it, it brought down that information here. Again, it's hanging because of the photos. And again, we're grabbing up all the bandwidth or the API. Something's whacked out with it right now.
Yeah, I wonder if something's with the API server because
there we go. So now it came up. Of course, the pictures aren't there right now, but now it's just viewing the results of the thing. I had it view everything, and then I can either email the inspection or from this point, or I can just view the PDF. The PDF is actually generated on the server, not on your device. So if it said view the PDF, it would have to call for the PDF. We do that so that everything stays in sync with stuff. So I can close it, and you notice it's gone, the 30-foot inspection, and here it is down here in my completed. I can click on that at this point, and I can either view the PDF or email it. So now it's going to call for the PDF. And there's the PDF.
And so all the data came over, but the images didn't. And I had run into that one before as well. So either I didn't wait long enough or something's hanging with the API.
Yeah. We haven't had problems. We've had some people actually take like 50 pictures on a inspection, and they come across. So it could just be your connection. At that point, I could email it or print it or whatever. Close it back out, and I'm back here.
Okay, so one question from Mike. So the master tenant section in occupancy, that's probably we can talk offline on that, Mike, but as far as the master tenant function within InspectER, that will come in a future release. It's not currently part of InspectER. Do you know where that is on the plans, Stu?
No, not at this time. You have anything else you want me to show, Tom?
I think we got it.
Okay.
Let me look here. Nope, I think we've got it. So really, just to close out the session, guys, I think if you have any questions for us or anything you'd like to see within the app that Stewart can show on the Windows version, just chime in with those questions. We'll keep the session open for a couple more minutes. But I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy days to join us for the 14th. This is our 14th virtual Thursday, and we're just grateful to have you guys have you with us, and just keep Florida in your thoughts and prayers in the week ahead. Stewart, anything you want to add about anything coming up with the app itself that we didn't mention earlier?
No, just like I said earlier, we have a release plan for next week into the stores, mainly because of iOS 11, but we'll update all versions. So there'll be a 1.07 next week release.
Right on. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out the session. Again, to Christopher, Craig, Darren, Mike, and Oliver, thank you for joining. I think we lost Natalie. She may have had a breakaway. But and Stewart, thanks for taking time to share your expertise with the group today and to give some product owner insight.
Sure.
Thanks a bunch.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
You
Okay.
bet. Have a good one, everybody.